The wind cut through the quiet bus station like a dull knife. Daniel sat alone on the cold metal bench, staring at the empty road. The digital clock above the shelter blinked 23:48. Beneath it, a small message glowed in red letters. Last bus. Departed. He had missed it. Again. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. The day had already been long before it became cruel. He had spent the morning at a job interview that lasted 5 minutes and ended with a polite smile and the words, "We'll call you." They never called. Then his landlord reminded him that rent was due. Then his phone battery died. Now he was stuck 5 miles from the small apartment he could barely afford. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and laughed quietly to himself. Figures. The street was silent except for the hum of a flickering lamp above the station. A light rain began to fall, tapping gently against the plastic roof. Daniel pulled his jacket tighter and tried to think of a plan. Walking would take hours. Rough night? The voice startled him. Daniel looked up. An older man stood near the edge of the shelter. He must have arrived quietly because Daniel hadn't heard him. The stranger wore a dark coat and a worn leather satchel across his shoulder. His hair was gray, but his eyes were bright. Something like that, Daniel said. The man sat down beside him as if they had planned to meet there all along. Missed the bus? Daniel nodded. Yeah. The man smiled softly. Funny how life works like that, Daniel sighed. Doesn't feel funny. For a moment they both watched the rain. Then the man asked, "What happened today?" Daniel hesitated. Normally, he wouldn't tell a stranger anything. But the quiet night and the weight in his chest made the words spill out. "The interview went nowhere," he said. "I've been looking for months. I studied, worked hard, did everything I was supposed to do. But nothing works out," he shrugged. "Feels like I'm stuck." The stranger nodded thoughtfully. "Let me tell you something," the man said. "The most important moments in my life started exactly like this." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Missing buses," the man chuckled. "Missing plans." He leaned back on the bench. 30 years ago, I missed a train to a job I thought would define my life. I was furious, thought everything was ruined. What happened? I met someone on that platform who told me something I never forgot." Daniel waited. The old man tapped the side of the bench gently. He said, "Sometimes the door that closes is just redirecting you to the one that actually belongs to you." Daniel looked down at the wet pavement. "Sounds nice," he said quietly. "But doors don't open for everyone." The stranger reached into his satchel and pulled out a small notebook. "You said you studied. What in?" "Design," Daniel replied. "Product design." The man's eyebrows lifted. "Interesting." He flipped open the notebook and showed Daniel a page filled with rough sketches of everyday objects: lamps, backpacks, coffee mugs. "I run a small workshop," the man said. "We design practical tools, things people use every day." Daniel leaned closer. "The drawings were clever and elegant. We're looking for someone young," the man continued. "Someone who still believes problems can be solved differently." Daniel blinked. "You're hiring?" The stranger smiled. "I wasn't planning to tonight." Daniel felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Hope. Cautious and fragile. "But you met me at a bus stop," he said. "Exactly." The man closed the notebook and handed Daniel a card. "Come by tomorrow morning," he said. "Bring your portfolio." Daniel stared at the card. The name printed on it belonged to a design studio he recognized, small, but respected. "You're serious?" "Very." The rain began to slow. Daniel looked up, but the man was already standing. "Wait," Daniel said. "How are you getting home?" The stranger smiled and stepped toward a car parked just beyond the streetlight. "I never take the bus." He paused before opening the door. "But tonight I'm glad you missed yours." The car drove away, leaving Daniel alone again under the shelter. But the night felt different now. The clock still blinked 23:48. The road was still wet. Nothing had changed except everything. Daniel looked at the card in his hand and smiled for the first time all day. Sometimes missing the last bus wasn't the end of the journey. Sometimes it was where the real one began.